Great. So, hello everyone. Welcome to day 5 already of our Pro Beauty India Styling Week. So it's the Stylist Toolbox, and this week we've been focusing on bringing hairdressers from around India and globally as well to really showcase some real creative talent with regards to styling. Today also we had Bina from Goa doing a great color transformation look with one of her clients. And today for our finale for the week, super excited to have a special guest from the UK live with us. It's Darren Ambrose, who is a much celebrated hairdresser. Most of you probably already know him. He's been around a few years, and ever since he kind of broke onto the scene has been winning awards and breaking records, and has really built a great brand for himself as a really high quality creative hairdresser. Really passionate, multi-award winning as well. So we were chatting yesterday. We were trying to count how many, and it's over 20 awards he's got to date in his career, including 5 British Hairdresser Awards. So real phenomenal kind of achievements over his career. And we're really excited to be having this interaction with Darren for the community. We're streaming not just in India, but we're also on the Professional Beauty Dubai Facebook page, as well as Hairdressers Journal, and in South Africa as well. So as well as talking to our community in India, we're talking to a global audience today. And I'd really like to welcome Darren, to this conversation.
Hello, guys. Hi, Vikas. Lovely to be on your streaming, and what you're doing is amazing. And like you were saying, what you've had already on there is like iconic talent, and it just shows what's happening around the globe. And under this situation that we're at now, like how you can connect, which I think what you guys are doing, and I know with Hairdressers Journal as well, I've been on there with Jane Lewis Saw, it's amazing, like what you can have at the tip of your fingertips, and you've still got the creativity and working from, as we were talking about, working from home still, you can be creative.
Yeah, you're right. So I think us, here in India, and also the London teams and Dubai, South Africa, we've really looked at, even if we can't do physical events right now, what is our core purpose and philosophy for the community? And it is really about, like you said, engaging people, educating and inspiring. So
yeah,
we've been close to being doing this for 3 months now, just, constant
it's fantastic
seminars, interactions, it's been brilliant to, really talk. And what we've been able to do, which isn't as easy in the physical environment, is bring artists from everywhere to audiences everywhere. So I think that's also been really exciting, because otherwise, you've got busy schedules, and it's hard to say, look, Darren, do you want to come to India for, it's like, we'd have to plan months in advance to figure that kind of stuff out. And it's great that we can bring people, like you said, connect people so much easier now.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So before we get onto the meat of it, we were talking about hairstyles. Mine's a mess, which everyone keeps reminding me. But you were saying you had long locks a week ago. What is that about?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I think it's just like anybody. I've had it short before, and it had grown loads. I mean, last year I started growing it, and it got down to about kind of here. And I just woke up one morning and thought, you know what? That's it. It's off. So I got the clippers and just shaved it off. Got rid of it and just took it off. But do you know what the amazing thing about what we do is we're lucky that hair, hopefully, like touch wood, grows, right? So you can change your image at any time and just do what you want to do. It's a free world, isn't it? You do, whatever. As long as you're good with what you've got and what you're doing, then, it's a cool thing to do. So yes. So yours is looking cool, even though you haven't had a haircut. It's great. You got texture, so you can get some, shape out of it.
well, that sounds positive. I just think it's a mess.
but the funny thing is, it's funny, isn't it? When you're used to having maybe a controlled shape, it's a bit you're out of control. But actually, when you're somebody looking in on somebody for the first time, or like seeing it, it kind of works. It's cool. It's what you see in your eyes,
Yeah, so I normally, I go in every month saying, right, short back and sides, because I need to go to the office. And then I've not had it like this since I was a kid. And everyone used to remind me I looked like Ross from Friends when he had really crazy. So, and
Yeah.
I chatted to Jane, and she was saying, I feel like Michael Glazer at the moment from back in the day on Starsky and Hutch. I can't control.
No, less corporate, more wild, a bit more rock and roll. It's good.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
So let's just get away from the hair stuff. What's brilliant? You're lucky because you're a hairdresser. You can do the DIY stuff. So we've been talking here about do not do DIY if you're at home, because it could be a nightmare when you get back to meeting your hairdresser. So I think hairdressers like you and that, I was chatting to Mark Hayes a couple of weeks ago as well, and he was saying I think he got his son Jamie to do it, because Jamie's a barber as well. So
yeah,
it's lucky for you in the trade that you can do this stuff at home. I don't want to dare kind of make it even worse.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's one thing where we are kind of blessed, like that's our trade. So
yeah,
like Mark, he had a son that's in the business, and that's great. And you can kind of communicate and get on that and do a haircut and all that stuff. But I think for the consumer, sometimes it's, listen, it feels like a lifetime we've been locked down. It's surreal, it's unreal, it's not what we ever thought would happen in our lifetime. And I think, hair is a massive part of your well-being for women and men. I think when you've got something that's going on up here, that when you look into the mirror and you like what you see coming back at you, you've got a good well-being, a good feel-good factor. So it's very, very important. And I think a lot of people have had, maybe because of that journey, ups and downs in their emotion. But I think with the aid of great styling products that we have now, with things that you can adapt to, people do adapt. We have to adapt. We've had to adapt in this situation, like me and you talking and doing interviews, via Zoom and all that. Yeah. And I think it's the same with the guys. And I think clients, they do realize that. And I think they're very loyal in wanting to come back and get, big jobs done, big changes, things. Yes, it has grown, maybe some uncontrollable. You've got big roots, if you were a bleach blonde and you're now like looking like Blondie or some surf chick, with which could look really cool, but I think you do have to adapt. It's just making sure you don't do something stupid.
Which is why. So I keep telling Jane, I'm just going to cut some of my hair off, and she keeps threatening me, saying I'm not allowed to, especially because I represent HJ as well when I talk.
Yeah, and she's a strong woman. Don't cross her. Don't. Yeah, and I think, but the thing is, people may attempt, and we see things on social media where people have attempted haircuts and it's gone horrifically kind of wrong. There's sometimes something good in the undone and something that's not too perfect, but I think you're probably best holding on to your stylist or your creator, It's gonna be
all right, cool. And then just let's going back to the Darren Ambrose story. You started off when you were a kid, 17 years old.
Yeah.
So this question you would have been asked, I'm sure, many, many times, but just for our audience listening, in from India and South Asia for the maybe the first time, is what made you decide to become a hairdresser, and especially at that age where obviously it was very different back then in probably the 80s, etc., where people were still looking at do I go university, do I do technical training? University is much more now, but how did you decide at such a young age that you want to become a hairdresser?
Yeah, well, I think it was the same back then. We were pushed. It's always been an academic world, right? I think even back in my day when I was younger, the teachers were pushing academia to go to university. A lot of my university, which is amazing. And I think if you are tuned in that way, you're blessed. It's great, and it's the world's your oyster for that. But when you're a creative, it's a different story sometimes. And back then, people didn't understand a creative mind. So it was sometimes tougher to maybe make yourself known or understood in that way. And for me, I'd gone into graphic design, textile and art, and it was all kind of more creative. We had to do English, maths, all your usual curriculum, which is great, but it was something I felt very passionate about. And I suppose I was going down the route of more of a graphic designer and a designer. So I was doing all the exams for that to take place and go then to maybe college or university. But my dad's brother and his wife owned a salon in the south of England. My cousin was a trained hairdresser. My mother was also trained in London as a hairdresser. So in my background was the passion of hair, right? So but probably like a lot of us that are in the industry, it comes from our heritage. A lot of it comes from heritage too. And I remember coming back from school as a child, as a young kid, and walking in, and my mum would be there doing a friend's hair like a big beehive 60s number, and kind of creating these shapes. And I think out of me and my brother went down the construction route. He's more into sort of buildings and all this sort of stuff. And I was fascinated by shape and all that stuff. And that's kind of maybe on the other side of it where I had a passion. So for me at 17, as we left school early then, it was something that I was given an opportunity to a work experience in a salon. As you had to with school, you had to do right? And I did it a week before Christmas, and it was amazing. I just loved the energy and the characters, and it almost like gave you a freedom as an artist. I could see people creating freely without any kind of too many strict boundaries. You had the boundaries or some rules of the establishment, like the salon, but you could be your own artist on that head of hair, with connection to your client. So I just thought, God, this is amazing. Like you could do what you want. Everything's changing every kind of half an hour to an hour. It's different things coming in and different challenges. And that was when I just thought, no, that's it. I know what I want to do. It was great.
Oh, wow. So that real kind of week internship you did, do you remember what it was called? Like, it wasn't your family hairdressers, was it then? It was
no.
Local.
No. When I left, and that was the one thing actually, funny enough, with my family and the connections that we had in the family, they just said, it's great and we back you, but we wouldn't want to train you. I think they wanted me to come out and do my own thing, feel myself, be yourself, find your own kind of niche and all that stuff. So I worked with a chap called Terry Calvert, which I spoke about before. And that's where I did my training. He used to have a shop in Covent Garden. I did training in there. And back then it was for about 4 years that you did your vardering and your training to cover all aspects of hair. So it was like your color, your cuts, your session styling, long hair, all that stuff. Amazing. It was great. Really cool.
It's not a bad place to do your training, right? Covent Garden as well. That would have definitely helped.
Yeah. I mean, the vibe and the hub and the life and the lifestyle and the clients and the mix, it was a real thing then. And I think back then, kind of 80s, 90s, it was a very expressive, cash-rich environment where people just wanted, now less is more, then it was more is more, you know what I mean? So everything was piled in like to everything you did, and everything was bigger and better and all this stuff. So, but for us as in the game, it was kind of, it was fun, we had fun. It was very creative and very expressive.
Oh, wow.
You've got things that you look back on and think, Jesus, why did we do that? In that era. It was crazy. But then it's like anything, it's a moment. It's like micro trends. It's things that happen and then go away, or they come back, but just a small piece of it, So it's always good training. It's good. Yeah. Here is a good thing.
Yeah. For our local audience, more is more is very much what we call a Delhi and a Punjabi mindset. So it's
Oh,
all
really?
about
Yeah. Yeah.
No, not too. I don't want to really offend my Delhi crowd because my family's also from there, but they know
Yeah.
what we mean.
But you know what? Sometimes I think even in architecture, like a lot of the architects, they strip it back and less is more, right? Because we've become minimalist, and it's a bit like in fashion and all that stuff. Things become more watered down and diluted, and yet sometimes if you go to haute couture or certain designers, more is more. It's like it's the bigger picture. So basically it's I always think it's just what makes you tick and what makes you happy,
Yeah.
You're producing something that's got good aesthetics and it's a great image, then you can't help but like it. It's got everything to it,
Yeah, and do you get a lot of inspiration from what's happening in modern art and kind of trends you see around you? Does that influence the kind of work you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think around us everything inspires, right? You've got so much inspiration now around us. I mean, in the day, and it will happen again. I mean, obviously we're locked down at the moment, but traveling the world, traveling the world, doing shows, meeting people, sitting, watching, taking in different cultures, different fabrics, maybe even different natural things that grow in different countries, that give you architectural shape. Everything's like inspirational. Everything's got its place where you can take a piece of it and run with something really creative and beautiful. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think it's what we all as in our family as creatives do all the time without sometimes thinking about it. And actually traveling around, I think even, for you guys in Mumbai, some of the stuff that the young creatives and even the creatives are doing are amazing. If you've got a natural passion and you're doing something you love, you will produce something really beautiful. Aesthetically, it's great. So, and they're being inspired by whatever they're inspired by. It's a free world. It's just, it's an amazing, it's a great thing, really.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the kind of trends are out of lockdown. What does this period that we're going through right now, because it is, a mental and a physical lockdown. What kind of trends we'll see coming out of that, and how do artists and creators like yourself kind of then represent, this impact, on your clients actually when you get back?
It will do, actually. I don't know whether it's going to be more like almost going back to authenticity, going back to, like we've seen a lot of this. There's been loads of this global warming and what's happening to the world, what we do into ourselves, all that stuff. You're getting onto another subject. And it's very important, obviously. It's got a lot of information there that's that you kind of take in. Maybe it's going back to also things that we've had and we recreate. It's almost like retroism. It's like you keep those pieces of clothing, but you alter them slightly and add to them, and it's got global mixes with art involved. And I don't know. It's at the end of the day, I think it's maybe also creating something where you've got your product companies and your product lines, great supplies of color, and just authentic, beautiful colorations and mixes and just quality hair that would last. It's things that have got durability, rather than too much micro, quick money spending. It's about that luxury and, I don't know, longevity in whatever you do.
Yeah. So are you working on those kind of, are you working on that kind of thinking for when you get back? I think Wales have declared that they'll open up sometime early July now. So I think obviously England might be also in the first week of July. So are you starting to think about what kind of looks you might create with your clients, when they come back in a couple of weeks?
Yes, I think I mean, yeah, I can't wait to get back, like everybody, get back into cutting and doing what we love. I think, we've just gone to level 3 in our lockdown phase. And, we're due to go back on the 4th of July and hopefully wish to God that we open on the 4th of July, which we will do. We've got everything in place, the PPE and all this stuff, protective clothing for our staff and for us. And it's like anywhere, it's like you in Mumbai, right? You're locked down and there's other areas that are opening up. We're a small country in comparison to, say, maybe yourselves and around you and America even. And they've got places the same that are locked down, some are opening up, and it's just really surreal. It's a weird thing because you feel trapped when you're locked down, and you can see these people opening, and you're frustrated because you want to get going, right? So yes, for sure. I think when the shops open and when hopefully it is the 4th of July, we've got clients that are waiting and they're booked in already, which we're very blessed for. But it's going to be something where we're going to be doing a lot of makeovers probably. I think by the time they come back, will be big changes. Yeah. Let's see how many
horror stories you have to deal with.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah, we're waiting for that. We've already spoken about that with the staff. Maybe doing things like packages because of desperation, and maybe they've done something themselves, and what it's going to do to rectify it. Who knows?
Side point. An interesting trend that's developed here is a lot of video consultations in advance of coming into the salon. So a lot of the salons have been doing that, using like this Zoom kind of technology to talk to clients and work through that process in advance rather than having them do that in the salon. So it might be something you and your team do just before you start opening up.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I think that's a good idea. I think also, it's, I think your clientele is, like a lot of people out there, very loyal. And they have been crying out to come back. So I think that's one way of reassuring that their journey that they take once they come back is into the normality. We slip back into normality, and they get back into that phase of actually treating themselves and keeping their image up, and not just doing a one trip and then leaving it for ages, so which I think we were in a good place. It's whether it's changing the mindset of how we've become in this lockdown to being more positive when we come out, so we quickly get back into, what makes us feel good, really, the feel good factor.
Yeah, super. And then just building on from your early points, but, really about the creativity side that you talked about, you tapped into when you were young, you got into becoming a hairdresser, etc. So what does it mean for you to be a hairdresser?
Well, fundamentally, I think when I entered the industry, basically at the beginning when I was 17, I thought it was all about, which a lot of it is about, in the salon, in the hub, behind the chair, building your clientele, just building a great foundation and generating good money and earning good money for yourself. But what I quickly realized with the company that I was working with was the amount of doors in that hallway within the industry that you can open and tap into, which I hadn't heard of, a lot of it. I didn't think that existed within the realm of the industry. And surprisingly, when you start getting into, the education side, then comes the show side, then, your travel, then you can go into the music industry, the videos, the campaigns, the photographic, the session, there's so many different avenues of creativity you can tap into, also whilst being within the hub of your salon or your own salon, was amazing. So for me, I think fundamentally it was one of best career choices of my life. I think
wow.
anybody that's in the industry, I think, that feels passionate about what they're doing will totally understand. It's amazing, fulfilling career. Every day is different. Every day has a new challenge. And if you're really lucky and you get to a place where you feel that you want to express yourself by platforming, by doing the shows and education, that brings another element, another string to the bow that is so fulfilling, you know?
Yeah,
it's a great career, amazing career. And the one thing, I mean, I think they said ages ago, hairdressers are probably one of the happiest people in their career.
Yeah, you were chatting about that earlier. It's an amazing kind of statistic or, thing to hear that, about hairdressers, because as we're on this side as clients, right? So you never really kind of understand the depth, of the kind of work that you do actually. And I think for me personally, having spoken to, like things like you, and Giordano, and then, Mark, we spoke to Patrick Cameron, you really get the passion and the creativity, and it's a really different career on the inside, which we don't fully appreciate.
Yeah.
On the outside.
Yeah, but I think you have to, I think like those guys, like Mark, Giordano and Patrick, I think as well as everybody else that's out there that's really in it and creatively in it, you've got to have the passion, you've got to feel it, because it is a tough journey at the beginning. Like I think when you're a junior, when you're a vardering and you're training to be a stylist, yes, it's amazing. Yes, it opens your eyes to a whole new world of creativity, but it is tough. You're on your feet a lot. You're dealing with people that you never dealt with when you were at school. Your long hours, you're this, you're that. And there's times when you think, oh, I can't do it. I'm going to jack it in. I don't want to do it. But that's the one thing I think, if you are focused and you're dedicated and you just shadow somebody that you're watching and you're taking in, it's amazing, because those ones have got the longevity. They'll be the ones that will steadfast.
That's a great piece of advice. It was actually leading to the next question, because obviously we've read about you saying one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received is to stay focused, which you kind of again mentioned. So how has that served you during your career? I mean, when did you get told that kind of great advice, that just stay focused on what you're doing? And then how has that served you in your career?
Well, and my parents always said it to me. They were always saying to me, could you please stay focused? I was one of those children, right, that was behind, like in education. I would be focused if I loved it, and then I would drift off if I thought, oh no, this is just I'm not finding this interesting. So when I got into hair, I remember Terry sometimes saying to me when I was training, like, could you just keep focused, please, on what you're doing, and blah, blah, blah. I was always talking, or we were messing around, or, we were young and having fun. But I think looking back, there was a point where it snapped and I thought, yeah, actually, I do need to keep focused. I'm about to either lose my job or not actually get the most out of what I need to, So yeah. For sure, definitely it was about keeping focus through my process, which stead well in the future, but also to listen, to keep your ears open for people, what people are telling you, what people are doing, and just listen to people in general, rather than always just think I'm right in what I say, because that's totally not right. Yeah. You've got to let people in, and then sometimes you get a better direction from listening. You take.
They do say we have got two of these and one of these, so.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes these can get you into trouble. This can get you into trouble. This can make you go a little bit further. Yeah.
So. It's great, because then I keep telling my young kids who are like 12 and 9. We keep telling them to stay focused.
Yeah.
So it's great to know that one day they might listen to us.
Yeah. No, they will. They will definitely. I mean, it's definitely with maturity. I think as you get older and you learn through the process of life. I think it's one of the greatest things. you know, and we've all had moments where we've had very challenging moments or low moments, and then you've had moments of real euphoria and high, and that's life. That's what makes you stronger. I think you've got to sometimes, you know, sometimes I think it's good to have that to just progress you into a different avenue.
Yeah, and talking about, you know, how you progress in life and the kind of, you know, how you do well. You've won umpteen awards now, like 5 British Hairdresser Awards, you know, over 20 general award, you know, other awards as well in total. How do you get to that kind of level of, you know, being, you know, not just a one-off competition winner, but someone that's really regularly repeating that kind of success? Now, what does it take to do that?
Do you know what? That's probably $1 million question. I think what it is, it's about personally, if you speak personally, it's about goal driven. I'm very goal driven, and it's about a drive. You know, when I was young, I used to write goals out and think, okay, I've got to tick that off, tick that off, tick that off. And when I entered British Hairdressing Awards when I was about 22, 23, for the first time I won Newcomer of the Year, which was my first entry. And that was the beginning of something that was, I mean, mind-blowing experience on the night, winning it. And you naturally then get this inner challenge, like it's a challenge. And I think like most creatives, you then end up thinking, okay, I need to do better. You're very self-critical. So I need to do, what can I do next? What am I on next? What's my next project? So it was actually that then followed suit. And I think as a formula, I mean, it's a very difficult one to say because everyone's very opinionated on that one. I think for me, it was about getting a believable story all the time. So if I'm doing a shoot, it was about a story that I felt very passionate about or strongly about. Like you could portray it in a shoot, or like if you're doing a campaign shoot, it's often about a lifestyle or the way the girl sits, the way she's photographed, the shading, the backdrop and all this sort of stuff tells a story. So I always sketch everything before I do anything. I'll draw out scenes, I'll draw out the hair types, I'll do oil paints and things for Pantones of color. And then generally it's having the backing of your photographer and your makeup artist and your stylist and things like that come on board and believe the story. I think once you've got that and you're doing something for yourself and only for yourself to portray it, then it becomes maybe a little bit more believable. And I guess it's just a bit of luck on the time, on the day. You know, if the judges love it, or they don't. You know, we had a moment. You have moments where you don't win, you do win. But I think in those situations, if you're blessed enough to get through and shortlisted, you're a winner anyway. Which, you know, because you've done something that's captured the mindset of people that are looking at it. You know, and kind of they're seeing something in that. So, you know, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's not even pretty, that's actually incredible. You know, within 6 years of starting your career, was that the first competition you'd gone in for at 23?
Yeah, I did some other things when I was a lot younger, you know, with my training and all that stuff, which were really enjoyable. So the education of doing things like that was slightly set in place, you know, like what it takes to do a competition or what you need to put in, the grafting that you need to put in. Because there's like a lot of things, you know, like you quite often don't get anything for nothing. You know, you've got to put your graft in. You've got to put your hard work of, I don't know, materials and thought process and choosing the right model, the right face, guy or girl, you know, the right photographer, everything's down to really at that point you. So you know, it is really important. So I think you only ever achieve anything sometimes in life if you put a grafting in, you know. It's like people say you're blessed with a silver spoon and you're handed it and everything's on a silver spoon, but that doesn't, maybe for some it's cool, but then I think for most people, you know, it's a journey, it's a process, and you start to grow with it.
And then what kind of tips would you give to you know, young generation today that, you know, that have that kind of aspirations? Because it can be quite intimidating to go, especially for the larger awards. So what tips would you give the younger, you know, younger stylists?
I think for people coming into the industry or within it and want to get to somewhere, I think what's very, very important is to what we was talking about earlier, you know, listen and focus and write down where you want to be. What's your passion? What do you want to achieve? Whether it be, you know, you're the top color technician, the top stylist, creative director, own your own company, go into the session world, go into the music industry, you know, doing hair, go into the film business, whatever it is that you want to do. I think it's to write out your goals and then listen, focus, put down your mobile phones whenever you can. Don't keep going on social media as much as we all use it. And it is amazing. I think in those times, it's about focusing on what you need to absorb at that point. I think it's really important to have icons, you know, like as in people you aspire to. I mean, I know when I was younger and I was training, Robert Lebetta used to be somebody that I really admired, you know, in a sense of he was blasting out these amazing images and it was really creative and beyond out the box. You know, it was a lot more expressive. And for me, those were things that I tapped into. I got it, you know, I felt it. I felt that kind of vibe. So I do think it's really great to have that. But I think you need to also get to a point where you feel yourself, where your signature is. You know, you need to be developing your own signature. So as much as you have those inspirations, I think it's important that you find yourself and only ever do something that you feel truly happy with, that's about you, you know? Yeah. So when you're creating, it's not like anybody else. It's about finding your own path of image making, you know, and creating. And I think, you know, it comes with basically hard work and putting in the graft, you know, for that.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. At what point, I mean, when you talk about finding yourself, was there a point in your career when you suddenly figured, you know what, this is me, and this is where you moved beyond looking at your icons and what others were doing to realizing this piece of work was truly representative of who you are?
Yeah, I think you go through different processes. I mean, I remember when I was entering avant-garde and I was doing hair, you know, that was a lot more kind of almost like haute couture. It was a lot more exaggerated and there was more drama to it. And I remember editors and consumers even were saying, you know, oh, that's beautiful, but who'd wear that? And can you actually do consumer hair? Can you do normal hair? You know, it's funny what people... how people see things, you know, when they're viewing stuff like that, they think you're just that box as a person. Maybe, you know, when you look at things, what I've created, maybe there has still got an element of avant-garde to it. Maybe, I don't know, you know, it's how people see what you do. But I think at that time it was something I wanted to get into. So winning avant-garde 3 times, getting into the Hall of Fame for British hair was amazing, and I did it on that. And then I think you were doing consumer hair all the time within the salon. So when it came to creativity, it was about producing things that were out of the box. But now it kind of changed, because then I got into, you know, doing things with photographers for campaigns, or you know, doing celebrity stuff, doing other bits and pieces and some music, videos and all those sort of bits. And then the skills change slightly in the way that you're producing the hair or moving the hair or creating the hair. So it's more diverse. It's more about what we do as an industry. So it's tapping into everything. So yeah, I think it's very important to have all of those elements, but then find your passion. Find what's good for you. Because we all, at the end of the day, I think when you go into a company, whether you own your own company or you're within a company, we have to do consumer hair, and we're very understanding of the consumer. So it's about a partnership with each other. It's like if you came into me, the biggest thing is about talk and consultation. So I get to know you and we create something for you. So you're needing to be very complying against the client. Whereas when you're doing a shoot for yourself, or you're doing shows, or if it's anything that you're doing, it's a little bit more out the box, so you can be more creative. And even sometimes, even going into London Fashion Week, if I've worked on that with designers, they like you to be, obviously it's different, it's consumer friendly or runway friendly or whatever, but then it can also be really expressive and outside the box. So it depends on how the designer wants to see the hair with the clothing. So all of it's great. It's amazing to work on and just be involved in, really.
And what have you enjoyed most? Because obviously, like you said, you run your own successful salon, you've won loads of awards, you've performed at shows domestically, internationally, and you're also a global ambassador for Wella. So out of all that kind of so much that you have access to, what do you enjoy the most?
I would say I enjoy the shows. I enjoy a show. Like if we've done a couple of shows actually with America, with Carol Protat from Wella. We did one for her over in Vegas and one in LA last year, and they have done some amazing collaborations with obviously the production team on the sets that they do and everything like that, and the runways and everything, and they are just, totally awe-inspiring. There's something where you can produce an image on somebody, and that person is representing your vibe and your brand that goes down the runway or whatever they're performing. And I think for Wella, they do a great platform anyway, and they will tell the story through what they've set up for you. But a show is a massive feel-good factor. It's a bit like going to the West End, to the theatre. Sometimes you can go to those places and you come out buzzing, like you just feel so uplifted. So I think in a show sense, if you can captivate people in a way that makes them feel like lifted, like totally inspired by something, and it doesn't have to be everything that you perform. You might have something where it doesn't at all, and you're totally unlucky. Or you could have something where it can be totally cool and they're like standing ovation. So it's a mix, but that's about what we do. Some people love it, some people don't. They don't get it, or they don't get it. So, but I think to perform it is amazing. Really cool. Yeah, it's one of the best. I love it. And I think actually another one probably would be the guys in the salon. We have such a laugh sometimes. It's like Big Brother. When you work. But yeah, because when you work in a company, it might be like for you guys, maybe not. But it's like, when you're with a team of people for a long time, and we're lucky we've got some guys that have been working for us for a long time. You become a family, and you see them more than your friends. You're 24/7. So it is like you're all in Big Brother with a camera watching you, and it's hilarious. You've got some real characters. So that's great fun as well. I think if you're a united team, you've got some good leverage for being backing them and just moving forward, so it's cool.
You're right. Without a great team, it's really hard to move forward. It's just like trying to move a mountain if you're trying to do it by yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
It is actually. But I think with people in director roles or owners of companies, I think it's always good to listen to your staff, but also talk, speak what you think, as in if you're needing to talk to them, it's to always communicate. I think it's a problem whenever you just, as a owner, just shut down and don't say anything. I think it's about actually expressing yourself as well. So, there's times when you love and there's times when you don't like. So it's important to actually fundamentally, like we should do around the world, communicate before you even get any further, of what's happening out there now. It's all just crazy. So
I know.
No, it's mental. But I think if you're true to yourself and you don't become too narrow-minded and kind of stubborn, then I think you've got a good set to, go forward.
Yeah, brilliant.
In an art world.
Yes. And then you've you get into this debate because you've got your salon, you do all the shows, you do all that. We were chatting the other day about some people think, what, I want to go and have more and more salons and set up a chain and get my name everywhere. So how come you've kind of like looked at, what, I'm really happy with, with the great salon that you're running, like you said, it's about 20 chairs and a great team. You're doing the shows now. How come you've never kind of thought of expanding and setting up a whole chain of, salons everywhere?
I think because we are our own people, me and Jack, right? I totally 100 respect people that have gone out there and done big chains, right? I think it's amazing. I think if you've got that initiative and want to have a big corporation and company of multi-chains, it's fantastic. But I've never really wanted to do that. And I don't want to, I would always say, and both of us would always say, is something we've never really kind of looked at. I think what's important is that you do something you feel happy with yourself. I think if you do something that you're not happy with, that's when problems start. Yeah. So I think those that have created that, it's amazing. But for us, we have always wanted a boutique, smaller energy, but hopefully with a powerful outlook. Do you know what I mean? With things that we love to do, but we're more of a tighter bond in that sense as a boutique salon. We have had periods where we're going to extend and came very close to finding another one, but obviously things in life, nothing always runs smoothly, and we had personal situations where that didn't happen. But I think, no matter what, it's about keeping yourself very focused on what you have and building what you believe in. And I think it's really important to also not think too much about others. I think inspired by others is great, but not think too deeply about others and what people are doing here and there. It's about what you're about. I think that's when you've got a good mental health, trying to keep more positive about that rather than worrying about what the world's doing or worrying about what your neighbors are doing. Because at the end of the day, I think when you talk in business sense, most of us all have the same problems sometimes. Doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. It's something that you're very compatible with in that way. So, I just think you have to be happy with what you're doing. If you're doing that, then it's quids in. You're on a good track.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've always been very true to that, your philosophy of being true to yourself. Just whatever is your core and your philosophy.
Yeah,
very kind of
massively. I think the trouble is sometimes if you lose focus on what you feel strong about, you lose focus on a lot of things, and then that's when it can kind of just rock the boat slightly. So I think, yes, it is very important to be true to yourself and believe in what you're doing and the passion in what you want. And there's a place for everybody for what they do. And I admire lots of people in the industry. There's so many creative talents. It's incredible. And their place is their place, and there's a righteous place for that, and it should be. But I think it's important that what you achieve as a creative is coming from yourself, not from trying to be like anybody else. It's about your feeling.
Yeah.
And then,
And how do you, I mean, you've been like, you've won so many awards, you've been around a few decades now as well. How do you keep finding, what sources you in terms of finding your inspiration and energy, to still keep going?
I think it's the passion of the job. I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I just truly, hand on heart, right? It's what we do. It's the, you've got to be in it to feel it, and you've got to be, to know what it feels like. But I think there's moments where I think there's a good place to sit back and just recoup. So not being on the button constantly. I think sometimes to come off our phones, sometimes to come off TV, the news, everything. I think it's good to kind of retract, and find your place or find your mojo, like find where it's coming from. And then I think it's good to get back on it and feel it and push it. And when you've got something that you feel like you believe in, that's when you can go forward, like the British Hairdressing Awards, like the other awards that are out there, and lots of other competitions. It's a good one to build your PR for your company. It's a good way to promote your company, your own signature. There's lots of amazing things out there that will help you grow up the ladder to make more consumer awareness for your company and industry awareness. So it's a good thing to do. It's a really good thing to do, but it's also good to have the time where you sit back and regenerate your creativity, because sometimes it's funny, isn't it, with creativity? You can have, like, we have moments, right, where you can think about something. You've got a show coming up. Someone says, oh, we've booked you for a show, blah, blah, blah. And you think, okay, right, I've got to get my head on for that. And it can come within, say, I don't know, a week, say, right? And you're doing sketches and other bits and pieces. And then other times it can be about 2 months, like as in you're racking. So sometimes it's like anything. You can be triggered by smallest of things, and it will send something in that you can be inspired for. Like doing a haircut in the salon on your client. We're trained as creatives to look at the individual and instantly see the end result. So we tune into them as a person. We look at their face and the mathematical balance of their face, and then we create something in our heads that we think, yeah, that would look amazing. They don't know that, but we've already set the scene of what it's going to look like. So those sort of things can come very quickly. And then there's other times when it can be more challenging, when you've got things that maybe, I don't know, you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? It's already this, how am I going to create that? So yeah, it changes, but that's the challenge.
Do you take time out to, like, I don't know, whether it's meditate or just get away from everything to rebalance yourself as well? Because it must be hectic at times.
I don't take time. I haven't got time to take time out. Do you know what? That's one thing I wish. Actually, that's one thing I would tell my younger self. Take more time out, because actually you got a good point. Sometimes that is a good thing. And I think the positive out of what we're going through is that we've had, I have never had this much time out in my life, right, of career. But from a positive point of view, it is a really good place to actually reflect and sit back a little bit, and see what's going on and all that stuff. But when it comes to meditation, it sounds really heavy, like, guru Ambrose. But I tend to, we do a thing called mindset, which is mindfulness, where I suppose it is like meditation, but it sounds a bit kind of like heavy, but it's amazing to just relax the whole body and just take away all the rubbish that you store, because our worst thing in life is overthinking. We always overthink, I think, in lots of stuff. And it is a killer of what you do in a sense of going forward. It sometimes can be your hindrance. So I think to wipe that out for anybody out there, mindfulness is a really cool way to just chill yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the kids trying to do it at the moment. There's a course called Mind Valley. So we're like, and even I want to do more of that. And just like you said, take away the overthinking and the negative blockages.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, you know, we've equally now through what we watch on news and so definitely social media about people that have, you know, mental health issues, you know, which is very
huge,
very, very important, and you know, a very poignant and heartfelt issue. You know, it is an issue for a lot of people, but I do think you do sometimes need to take that step back to get back on the rails, to go forward in a better way. You know, I think this period maybe could be sent for a reason, whatever reason. If you're looking in a spiritual sense, it's sent to sometimes, you know, to get you back onto a level where you can sit back and think about maybe your business, maybe family connections, maybe a friend, maybe whatever it is. You know, it's all of that stuff. So yeah, it's important. It is healthy. It's looking after yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we take a lot of effort to look after our body, physical body. So it's important to look at your mental side as well, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right. More of a personal question now. So you were talking about, you know, when you see a client, you know what the end product should be. What should I say to my hairdresser when I go back to the salon? If I may not then say short back and sides. Any tips?
What should you say? Well, maybe you should say something like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think to keep your long hair is better. It's less corporate. You know, I think the short hair is cool, but if you've always had short haircuts, step outside of the box and wear it for a while, where you just like create something different. Because actually, it's like we were saying before, hair grows. We're lucky, right? If your hair grows, your hair grows. So what's the problem? You cut it off or shave it. Sure. It's an image. It's if you like it, then that's more the point. And if you don't get divorced, then it's even a bonus. Because if your wife likes it, then it's better. But yeah, I think just do something a bit more experimental. Now you've got the length on it. It's let them create something a bit different, you know?
I know. Well, it looks, when it's not gelled back, it's more of a mic. It looks like a speakerphone.
Oh, yeah. That's what mine's like. It's it's like afro. It's like it goes like a afro. Yeah. It's what you get for girls.
I know, God. So I think before we wrap up, because look, we talked a lot about, you know, you've built your career and that. Any kind of low points you've had in your career that you've kind of let, you know, they've brought you down, and what are the kind of learnings you've had from them?
I think there's always low points. I think there's life. That's life. If you're truthful, you have moments of, like I was saying, euphoria, and then you've got very low parts where you think, God, are we ever going to get out of this? How are we going to change this? Blah, blah, blah. And I think when we were in early stages of business, we were trying to get into the British Hairdressing Awards. We were trying to promote the brand. We were trying to create an image, not only for myself individually, but for also the team and also my wife, Jackie, and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's those sort of times when you actually have to take a step back, like we were talking about, and you rethink your tracks, like who are we? What do we want to produce? What do we want to put across, and all this stuff. And I think that's where, I know I've spoken about in some other interviews and that, especially with Jane, that's where we took a step back and we started getting into buying fashion, like garments. We started buying designer pieces. You know, our first ones were with Vivienne Westwood. We got some Alexander McQueen, and then we got some Marni, Chanel, like loads of different people. And we've now got a huge wardrobe of clothes, but they're more like quite high-end runway pieces that we've invested in. It's a little bit like art, really, how you would invest in art. It's like some of these pieces were, you know, bought for a certain, and they've actually gone up in value because of, especially with the McQueen things, you know, they're cool. But what it did for us was it was something where we wanted to make a point with just the images that we were putting across. And I think with stylists, we were hiring stylists in, but they weren't always getting where we were coming from. So this is where we started to change the concept of the company. So for us, I think the low moment of not getting through and being frustrated and how we're going to do something that's slightly different to everybody else at that time, and produce something, was when we started to invest in stuff like that. And then when we did shows, it created a difference between what we put on, so and how it looked and what it felt like. So yeah, always a low point, but sometimes from a positive, you know, it comes out a positive. You've always got the ups and downs.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you do. And I think you just have to do the kind of work to have a positive mindset. So even through tough times, even like what we're going through now, you know, there are for some of us positives. Like you said, you've got time off to think, be with family, be with friends, reconnect, and maybe get your creative juices going again as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's just really important to be, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but you do have to keep the positivity up, because your clients are going to be there, and it's actually just working with your team behind you and the company to make a good place for when you do come back. It's, you know, the morale's good, and you know, you're wanting to introduce and bring back the clients into the salon in regular format, so you're keeping your business going. I think the one thing that we're more concerned about now is how, you know, with economy crashes and drops, how we're going to keep our businesses, you know, running in that way. And I think that's the most important thing, that we keep the positivity into keeping those people back and being, you know, creatives. All I could say is we've once had it, and they've needed us, and they'll need us again. And hopefully it's building that.
I know. So just another last wrap up one, but you say you're very goal driven, in terms of you set your goals, your targets, you work towards them. So what can we expect next from, you know, Darren and Jackie, when you guys get back to work? What's the next big thing for you guys?
Well, we've actually put together a big wardrobe of Pantones and clothing for shows. We've got show concepts for that. Working on British, been nominated for British, which I'm totally honoured for again this year. Amazing stuff. And we're working on the concepts for that. We've got some shoots coming up. I've got a shoot coming up in July, actually, God willing, towards the end of July. We've got some other shows, I know, with some of the guys in Canada, and that, if God willing, that happens. So there's some really cool things that we've got in place and we've got thoughts of. So it's just really basically, hopefully, that we can get out of this as cleanly and as smoothly as possible, and hopefully get it back to a normal way of living, whatever the new norm is, or the norm is, as quickly as possible, and just like everybody, work on stuff that we love. Yeah.
Okay. Super. All right. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I mean, an hour's gone by like really fast.
Yeah. It has, actually. Yeah, it has. It's been great talking to you too.
Yeah. I chatted to Jane. She's like, how long are you guys chatting for? Half an hour? I'm like, no, maybe a bit longer, but it's flown by.
Yeah. It has. Amazing.
Cool. All right. Super. So thank you so much for being with us and, you know, and talking to us and our audiences around the world.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
And good luck on, you know, on opening up as well.
Thank you very much. And good luck to you guys as well. And everybody out there, good luck to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren.
See you later.
All right. Cheers.